Brabham Formula 1 team, a racing team that achieved world championships in F1, a team that had amazing cars, hit the track, and were driven by many famous names, even including the founder of Brabham, who drove for his very own team. So here's the full history of Brabham's Formula 1 racing career. The British manufacturer Brabham was founded in 1960 by Australian racing driver Jack Brabham. Jack Brabham would later end up racing for his own Formula 1 team. 2 years after its foundation, Brabham made their Formula 1 debut in 1962. Brabham F1 team would enter their first car halfway through the season at the 1962 German Grand Prix, and that car would be called the Brabham BT3. In 1964, Jack Brabham's teammate Dan Gurney took the team's first F1 win at the 1964 French Grand Prix and would later win again in Mexico. In 1966, Brabham used Australian brand Repco as their engine supplier. Since Repco had never produced a F1 engine, there were doubts over the Brabham cars being competitive. But the engines worked great for the team, as Brabham F1 team won their first world championship in F1 the very same year. They also won the Drivers' Championship, with Jack Brabham taking it. And to this day, this is the only time in F1 history where the driver won the championship running the car that has their name on it. The following year, Brabham repeated their success with back-to-back Drivers' and Constructors' Championships in 1967. But this time, the Drivers' Championship was won by Jack Brabham's teammate, Denny Hulme. In 1970, Jack Brabham won his final F1 victory in the first round of the season at Kyalami. At the end of the very same season, Jack Brabham would announce that he would be retiring from the Formula 1 sport. The following year, after Jack Brabham's retirement from the sport, Ron Taranik ran the team for the 1971 season, and he signed two-time world champion Graham Hill and Australian driver Tim Schenken, and they would drive the BT34. Only one podium came in 1971 in Austria. Eventually, the team would finish 9th in the championship, a disappointing year for the Brabham team. In 1972, Bernie Ecclestone took ownership of the team and would run the team all the way up until 1987. In the early 1970s, Brabham's on-track results were not the same as when they raced in the 1960s. But for the 1974 season, things started to pick up again. That F1 season saw Brabham run the BT44, and that year, Carlos Reutemann took Brabham's first victory since 1970 at the 1974 South African Grand Prix. With the sheer competitiveness of the BT44, the team finished 5th in the championship, and following a strong season for Brabham, people were even speculating that the team would be in contention for the 1975 F1 title. In 1975, as expected, Brabham was in contention for the championship at one point, but finished second in the championship with only 2 wins during the season. They were just behind the winning constructor Ferrari in first. In 1976, Ecclestone signed a deal with Alfa Romeo to use the Italian manufacturer's flat 12 engines for the season. The team would also run a red Martini livery on the new BT45. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work out between the partnership with Brabham and Alfa Romeo, as the team fell down to 9th in the team's championship. 2 years later, in 1978, Brabham innovated a car called the BT46B, otherwise known as the fan car. This car was famous because it had a giant fan on the back of the car, which sucked air from beneath the car, which would generate a huge amount of downforce. This made the car have a massive advantage in the turns, and among other things, this is the reason why the FIA banned this car. It only participated in 1 Grand Prix, and it was won by Niki Lauda, who was driving the fan car, and he won by 34 seconds to the next car. The partnership with Alfa Romeo came to a close in 1979, and Brabham ended up reverting to Cosworth engines for the next set of cars. In 1980, Nelson Piquet drove the BT49 to 3 wins during the season, and the team took 3rd in the championship, and Piquet taking 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. With a better understanding of ground effects, Brabham continued to develop the car into 1981. Nelson Piquet won the Drivers' World Championship in the Parmalat Brabham, and the team finished 2nd in the 81 season's championship. Switching to BMW engines in 1982 meant that the team could continue their success. 1 year later, in 1983, Piquet won the championship again in the Brabham cars, and the team won the final 3 races of the season with the BT52B. After successful seasons for Brabham in the early 80s, things started to go downhill for the team. 1985 saw Nelson Piquet win that year's French Grand Prix, but no one at the time knew that that would be Brabham's last F1 victory. At the end of the 1985 season, Piquet switched to Williams, and the following season in 1986 saw the team only grab 2 points. So they lost their driver that got 2 championships with the team, they had a difficult 1986 season, and they would later lose their engine supplier as well. In 1988, BMW announced that they would be leaving Formula 1, but this wouldn't be the end for BMW, as they would rejoin F1 in 2000, partnering with Williams. In 1991, Brabham would only pick up 3 points during the season and would finish 9th in the championship. This would also be Brabham's last season for picking up points in the F1 championship. The following year, in 1992, would be Brabham's final F1 season. The last car would be called the Brabham BT60B. Damon Hill gave the team their final F1 finish at the 1992 Hungarian Grand Prix. After that race, the Brabham team would collapse, and that would officially be the end of the Brabham F1 team name in Formula 1. What do you think about the Formula 1 career of the Brabham Formula 1 team? What is your favorite moment of the team's history? And let me know why down in the comments. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this one, and if you'd like to see more content like this, please make sure to subscribe down below, and to the bottom left, you can watch another video right now. So have a great day, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace out.